Now, if you own private land, there's a real important question you need to ask yourself and be very honest with about your land. There's two types of properties out in the whitetail world. One type, which is the bulk of all whitetail parcels, is a nighttime parcel, and the other type of parcel is a daytime parcel. And what I mean by that is that there's very few properties in the whitetail world and in the habitat that actually support a high quality whitetail herd during the daylight hours. There's a lot that support a high quality herd after dark. Now, just ask yourself which one has the ability to influence a herd more. Obviously, if you're controlling the daylight movements, if you own the daylight movements on your land and you're one of those few properties in the area, in the neighborhood, then you are the true herd influencer in the area. You're the one that can determine sex ratios, bucks that you advance next to the next age structure, so you have an influence on buck age structure. And then you're the one that if you have too many deer, you can actually harvest some does to maintain the population and balance with the habitat. And of course, it's not, all about hunting. It's not all about herd management. I think if you have great hunting, you're going to have great herd management, and vice versa. You can't have one without the other. So for that, you have a great hunt. And that's why a lot of people buy hunting property, is to actually have a great hunt on their land and experience something they can on public land or on leased land, and have a little bit more level of control. It doesn't take a lot of property to become a daylight parcel. I'll give you some examples. A neighborhood set aside of 10 acres where you have houses surrounding a swale of 10 acres could have an incredible deer herd there, and there's no bedding areas, no food plots, no travel corridors, no water holes, no mock scrapes, nothing. You simply have a great deer herd because it's an area where the deer can be left alone and there's no hunting pressure. Golf course woods, could it be a metro park, areas where you have okay habitat, but bottom line, you don't have any hunting pressure. Hunting pressure, no matter how great your habitat is always the lowest hole in the bucket. And in fact, when you have great habitat, not only is it impossible to overcome poor hunting practices, but when you have great habitat, it's even harder sometimes to influence a herd, influence a hunt, because you have to manage that high level of attraction. So when you have big food plots, you have great habitat improvements, native grass plantings, water holes, whatever it might be, an apple orchard, great oaks, you have the ability to attract deer from far and wide off your property borders. But then if you're hunting poorly, you educate all those deer. And so sometimes a highly attractive property, and I see a lot of them, they attract a lot of deer, but it's after dark. If it's after dark, you can't influence a herd in any way, you can't hunt the herd in any way, except maybe add a few pounds for them with all the food that you're creating and all the great habitat you're putting. You make that nighttime parcel. So think about what type of property you have and be very honest with yourself. Nighttime parcels, deer can come from far and wide. They can move from all over the place. I'm standing in a nighttime parcel right here. We're in this cornfield. There's bean, corn, and hay rotations down below here. We have a road right here. We have a highway over there. And then behind us, there's a spruce line up here where all the boughs are cut out low. So the deer can't even bed in those spruce or right behind them. They have to bed far up on the hill, 300 to 400, 500 yards from here. So by the time they get down to here, it's well after dark. Now, I used to own a daytime property up top. We had our food plots. We hardly ever got a mature buck picture in the middle of the night. In fact, the ratio is several times to 1 of mature buck pictures that were in and around daylight versus nighttime, because by the time it got to the middle of the night, the deer were simply down here in this nighttime property down here. So really important that you focus on those tight window of daytime movements. Mature buck's home range is an awful lot after dark. He can move anywhere. He can move a mile from here. I believe he establishes 90% of his home range after dark. But bottom line is, he might move a whole lot on your property during the daylight, but he might never leave 5-10 acres. So really, you can control a lot with these daylight parcels. You don't need a lot of acreage. You just need to manage that short window of bedding, to travel, to feeding on that daylight parcel. And try to be different. Try to be one of those few properties in the neighborhood that actually contain the daylight movement, where you can actually have a chance at mature bucks, young bucks, and doe family groups all during the daylight hours, even if some of those or a portion of those are on your neighbor's parcel and they're funneling through yours to that afternoon food source during the daylight. Try not to be one of the overwhelming numbers of nighttime properties that have a poor chance of influencing the herd. I love meeting with clients. I love putting all the blogs and videos out on the property or out on the internet, the YouTube videos and the books that I write. It's all gearing towards trying to create and trying to influence and teach you how to have a daytime parcel and how to hunt a daytime herd on your property. I think you can do it. And if you really maintain that focus of going into the season of managing your hunting level and managing that attraction, managing the hunting pressure you put on your line, highly defining those lines of movement on your land so that you can say, I know that deer are here, I know there are deer here during different times of the day, then you can get in and out of your property and hunt, create that daytime parcel, and you can be the true herd influencer in the entire neighborhood.